Welcome, everyone. Happy Saturday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Saturday, September 27th, 2025. Can I please have the first two cards in our 5-card spread for today? First two cards, we are starting our day off with today, our Sun card in its reversal, in combination with our Chariot card in its reversal. Let's talk a little bit about this energy that we're effectively seeing right now. So I like to describe this as the doldrums, if you will, of the retrograde. We're just deep in the heart of the retrograde season. It's cathartic energy. It's working from a place of stillness. It's building into that energetic stillness point. It's allowing, I keep wondering, it's allowing a lot of that, it's allowing for a lot of that quietude. And I keep on seeing the thing I like to describe with energy like this is it's seeds in the ground kind of energy. It's allowing the ability of recognizing and identifying what we're energetically working upon, right? And there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about that productivity, if you will. There's something we also recognize and identify in relationality to, and I feel like one of the things we're often identifying here as well is kind of working through the space of, we're still coming out of a lot of this intensity that we effectively experienced during the eclipse cycle, right? We had a lot of that. The eclipse that we just went through was a very incongruous energy that we were experiencing the eclipse because it was working through the context of our own, like the space that the eclipses don't effectively bring something new towards us so much as they amplify the energy that we're currently in. Now, the thing with this particular retrograde cycle is it's not just one planet. It's a confluence of planets that are currently in retrograde. And that can feel really, it can, and I need to describe this. It can be very frustrating on, particularly and especially like on our own feelings of getting frustrated, on our own feelings of effectively on working through the space of our own patience. But what we keep on seeing in relationality to this is when we are able to expand upon our patience, right? And this is often the work that Aries kind of works towards, the space by which we observe or absorb our own patience upon things. It allows that calibration in terms of being able to do something more effectively. It allows the ability of effectively kind of getting something done in a better way. Now, but it's very, and this is why I was talking a little bit about this before we started the podcast, because if you're feeling the weight, of this retrograde, I effectively want you to kind of think about, library energy. I want you to think about like sanctuary energy. I want you to think about a little bit of that quietude or a little bit of the stillness that we sometimes experience in the midst of these retrograde cycles as something that is peaceful, something that allows one to be able to do something in a greater way. It's going to be easier. Like I was saying this prior to, it's like a little bit easier right now for those with Capricorn placements. It's a little bit easier for those with like Cancer energy as well. It's going to be easier for those with Libra energy too, right? Because there's something really significant about working through that sense of proportionality. But it also talks about the time, like the time that we give ourselves, in terms of like, and I keep on hearing, remember, we're still kind of coming out of this and recovering from a lot of that eclipse energy. Now, this is having a different impact depending on where one finds oneself on the frequency cycles. For masculine and feminine energy, that is in separation. You'll recall I mentioned the fact that we saw I see three different modalities right now in separation. And one of the reasons that we're seeing so many different modalities in separation right now is we recognize that there was an energetic shift that happened in lessons in separation prior to that eclipse cycle starting. The last energetic cycle I was reading for completed right when Uranus went retrograde prior to going into eclipse season. Ever since then, we've been going through, like, this is giving, and the funny part about it is I keep on saying it's giving strong indications of moon partnerships. And the reason I keep on hearing giving strong indications of moon partnerships is even in the ability of having a hard time being able to put my finger on the energy is why I feel even more like these are moon partnerships, because there's a lot of that there's a lot of that catharsis. There's a lot of that contemplation. I do see some energy of restoration that is effectively occurring in some of these modalities and some of these experiences. And what's beautiful about that is the catharsis that's coming through in relationality to a lot of that work is the observation of what can be identified as the true apology. And what is a true apology? A true apology is something that we give to another, not for the sake of energetically changing something, not for the sake of changing something, but because we ourselves have been changed. And so that's why I keep on seeing that there's something about those apologies feeling energetically cathartic, because it is the observation of another's change. This makes a lot of sense given the fact that we were also seeing that, particularly with the energy, like the moon energy having gone through Scorpio. Like, this is a lot of that is what we see, like the apology of another articulating upon how much one has changed. Now, for a lot of those relationships, we're effectively identifying that even in that space, this could be a time of contemplation, right? Now, that's a very small proportionality of energy that I see that's doing that work. The other space, though, is there's also some energy coming into some modalities of building into healthy closure within the self. And the reason I keep on seeing this is, and this is what we're going to see a lot when we're going through Uranus and Gemini cycles, the observation that I saw that there's some energy in separation that was not waiting. They were not waiting for something to change. They were not waiting for something from the past to change, but they were holding on hope to the possibility of something from the past coming back and being able to have a progressive conversation, especially and particularly if these are relationships that were damaged in the middle of talking about a manifestation goal. And this is why, if these are situations that were damaged at the time of talking about a manifestation goal, and energy arrives back, and instead of coming into restoration, right, the ability to talk about, the ability to have that conversation, instead they're working on mollification, which is checking to see if someone is still upset. This is why I see that a lot of energy is potentially clearing trauma at this time, because I keep on hearing when we are feeling triggered, holding a standard, it's never that we're being upset, it's that we're being fundamental. We're supposed to be triggered when there's a standard. And often in the space by which we're healing, it's not the fact that we get mad at ourselves for being upset. It's being able to understand the full reason why we felt the way that we felt. So that's why I see that if that's happening, it's almost allowing the context of building into that sense of closure. It's like I keep on seeing the energy that is working through the catharsis of potentially being able to finally move away from something with the affirmation and the understanding of something that has not been healing in separation, but has been staying in, but like someone who's not doing effectively the work to try to resolve something that was the barrier in the self, but someone who is trying to wait out another person's emotionality. And this is why I see even now, like that is allowing a lot of energy to like work through the clearing out of a karmic cycle through a lot of catharsis. This brings us to the energy that's coming together right now. A lot of trepidation here. And I keep on hearing trepidation, not hesitation. These are not relationships where another is hesitating about whether they want to be in union, but rather they have been wounded by energy that has not done their shadow work effectively. And what does it often feel like when we get wounded by another person not doing their shadow work? You haven't healed from your own aversions. You can't articulate that you want something, and then as you move towards it, right, you move in the opposite direction, right? It's not the space by which we move. Like a healthy manifestation is one that we move in accordance to it. But if we're not doing our shadow work properly, we'll often talk about the fact that we aspire and desire to do something or to have something. But then in the modality by which it comes towards us, we back away instead of stepping forward. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy doing that work, there's something to be said about the fact that this is the energy that is fortifying on the words that they're saying to one another. It's not just the fact that they're seeing each other articulating what they desire, but they're also looking at the aura. They're doing auric work around each other because they're looking at the aura around the self to identify and recognize if the feeling, if what it is that they're doing, like if what it is, if how they're moving moves in accordance with what it says that they articulate that they desire doing, is what I keep on getting. Center card for today's spread. This is going to bring us to those temperance relationships. Wow, this is all major arcana right now. This is all major arcana. This is like a huge, if you have an opportunity, make sure that you head on over to our to the stack to be able to see today's picture of today's spread. Now, again, for a lot of these energies, for these temperance partnerships, this is a continuation of what we were effectively seeing that was happening. I keep on hearing it's not a heart opening, it's a solar plexus opening that we effectively see that is happening right now. And why do we keep on getting indications that it's a solar plexus opening? Because this is the energy that is articulating to one another, that they articulated upon the past, but they didn't go into full detail about it, right? They didn't go, I keep on hearing, they didn't go fully into the space by which they articulated upon some kind of trauma that they experienced. Because everything I keep on seeing in relationality to that work, the way I keep on hearing it is the fact is like these temperance relationships have really been through it. They've been through a lot of traumatizing situations or circumstances. But this is why I keep on hearing that the energy is not articulating, glossing over details because they didn't want to talk about something. Rather, they didn't want to center trauma in the space of getting to know one another. They didn't want the trauma to take the center stage. They didn't want another person to be entirely informed and shaped by something they experienced. And that's why I keep on hearing for a lot of these temperance relationships that, again, we're coming together between the time of Uranus going retrograde up until the solstice period. This is the energy that says now is the season that I can tell you this. And the reason they're saying that now is the season is because they know each other so well now that I keep on hearing, they don't feel like the other is going to only see them through the lens of something that happened to them, is what I keep on getting. Fourth and fifth cards in our 5-card spread for the energy moving deeper into divine union. And for our purposes, we always talk about the most recent cycle that moved into divine union, which were those magician partnerships that came together from a period of the solstice period up until the time of Mercury and Venus stationing direct behind Neptune. They're working through Saturn's lessons. 7 of Swords in its upright, and 8 of Pentacles in its reversal. And the reason I keep on saying the energy, those magician partnerships are working through Saturn's lessons, is because they're recognizing and identifying that you can't touch Saturn's lessons. That sometimes when you touch Saturn's lessons, you make it impossible for Saturn to fix things. And by Saturn, I mean time, right? Because for some of those relationships, I see that they're moving towards something. They've never centered partnership like they are now, right? They've been in relationship, but they've never centered partnership in this way. And that centering process, that ability to energetically center into relationship, I keep on seeing it's having an impact on the orbit around the partnership. And that's a space by which, if they're observing another person's rumination, right? If you're in a space of celebration, and in the modality of you working through celebration, another person is ruminating, this is the energy that says you can't touch it. Why can't you touch it? Because it's the observation that that's something that they need to work. You can't change someone's feelings by talking towards it. And this is why, even in the space by which they may be talking to one another about it, they're recognizing that they can't touch it. Because they themselves remember, and this is what you'll get when you've got Neptune and Saturn in retrograde, and Saturn's in Pisces and Neptune's in Aries. They would be much more synchronized if it was reversed. This is the energy that remembers feeling that way. They remember, they're articulating to each other upon their history. They remember a time when they themselves saw someone going in that fashion, and they know the full depths of the fact of seeing something that they cannot touch because they remember experiencing it, right? And this is why we call Saturn's lessons ironic, because the only thing that can fix it is time. Continuing to get clarification between our Sun card in its reversal and our Chariot card in its reversal. Boom! We got a nine of wands here in its reversal. We've got some Sag moon, like we've got some Sag moon energy coming in right now. There's, and I like to, like, the thing I keep on seeing with energy like we're experiencing now is there's something to be said about being able to, I keep on seeing, like, allowing the space by which we're able to effectively be energetically productive is what I keep on seeing. There's a little bit of, there's some peacefulness here is what I keep on seeing. There's something that feels, there's almost like a bit of a return to practicality. And it's interesting too, because it talks to us a little bit about the observation of, how do I describe this best? How do I describe this? It's hard for me to be able to put, but this is what I mean about it being hard to put into words. The energy in separation is finding a hard time forming the words in relationality to how they feel about things. And it's and here's the thing about it too, that this is some energy that is in separation, that is healing from trauma, but being able to articulate the full experience of having experienced it. I'm going to tell you right now, this is why I keep on seeing that like, for the energy that's receiving those true apologies, I keep on hearing the gift of a true apology is the space by which another person acknowledges the pain of something that they put you through, right? And I keep on hearing, like, the space by which a pain is mutually shared allows us to heal it, because it's the difference between you articulating to another person and another person saying, like, you hurt me, and someone saying, I don't know what you're talking about, versus someone saying, I acknowledge that something I did was energetically hurtful. Like, it's the acknowledgement space of being able to refine and articulate upon something that allows the ability to do something in a greater way. And so that's what I keep on seeing that's happening here, because I keep on hearing what's beautiful about some of those apologies is not the space by which another person is demanding change. It's the acknowledgement that they're trying to tell another person about the fact that they have changed, right? Because it's I keep on hearing, like, it's the energy that's saying to one another, like, beyond what you do with it, I want you to know that is something I feel that you need to, that is beneficial, or something that will help you, is what I keep on seeing. Now, that's only a small portion though, and that's why we see, like, this is why, if these are experiences right now where instead of someone trying to apologize, another person comes towards us and mollifies, right? Not necessarily being in this space of being able to recognize or absorb, like the space by which another person was triggered because there was a manifestation, a conversation on manifestation goals. And I keep on hearing it's reasonable to be triggered when we try to talk about manifestation and another person moves away from us, right? Because we should always have the same manifestation goals, right? This is the heart of a healthy relationship, is unifying on the manifestation goals. And so that's why if these are situations where there was a separation that occurred because a manifestation goal was being articulated and another person became emotional because another person refused to speak upon it, and that person goes away and comes back, but instead of wanting to rectify and unify in relationality to the manifestation goal, they're then trying to mollify and say, are you still feeling emotional about that? This is the energy that's letting go of those processes. They're letting go of that trauma. They're recognizing and identifying that a healthy partnership is something that allows us to unify upon it. It doesn't feel like I keep hearing, it doesn't feel like it's a struggle, right? It doesn't feel like it's a wrestling match. It's just something that we articulate and we speak towards. And that's why I keep on hearing the healing that's coming towards those relationships is the observation of potentially looking at something that was confusing and now feeling the validity of saying the clarity in terms of wanting different things. This brings us to a lot of the energy that is building into new partnership right now. And this is why I keep on hearing they're doing auric work. And the reason that these new relationships are doing auric work is because it's not just the fact that they're articulating that they desire something, but they're showing each other in the context. They're showing each other in the context of what they're doing, what something means to them, right? The observation of what it is that they're working on changing, the observation of what it is that they're working on energetically resolving. And I keep on hearing like there's trepidation because this is energy that has been hurt before by energy that articulates something but doesn't have the intention of moving in the direction of it. So that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of these relationships or a lot of these situations, like it's like this is them kind of they're approaching each other gently because they're sussing each other out. Continuing to get clarification between our Chariot card in its reversal and our Star card in its reversal. This is to bring us to the energy of the temperance relationships that are moving deeper into divine union right now. Wow, a lot. There are a lot of major arcana on today's table. We've got the Empress card in combination, in its reversal, in combination with the Star card in its reversal. So there's something really, I keep on hearing, there's something really important there in relationality to, I keep on seeing observing the work that we do in order to, and this is what I keep on hearing with some of these relationships, you know, I keep on, and this is what we're going to see this when Uranus is in Gemini, the energy that is saying to each other, they're telling each other the gravity of past experiences. And I keep on hearing that gravitas, the reason they did not go into the gravity of those past experiences is because, and I keep on hearing it's a conversation on how we navigate trauma, right? And with trauma, there's a season for everything. There's a season that it's good to talk about something. And then there's a season where it's good not to, right? The observation that often we have time that we require to center trauma is one that we allow for that space by which we articulate upon it. And this is why I keep on seeing that this is energy that has gone through some deep, deep things, and then they put that stuff away. And this is the energy that's almost like coming towards each other and giving each other the heavy details on something that they were effectively hoping to spare another from hearing in the time that they were coming to know one another. Because I keep on seeing that for a lot of those relationships, that is the energy that says, I didn't want you to see me that way. I almost see the energy saying, I didn't want you to see me solely from the perspective of someone that had harm done to them, is what I keep on hearing. So I feel like there's something really significant about that in terms of articulating to each other the reasons by which they didn't go into something as heavily. But I keep on seeing, like, this is why I told you it was a solar plexus energy, because this is the energy that almost says, like, that they feel that sense of stability and partnership now, that they feel that they can bring that gravitas to one another, and it's not going to change the way that they see one another. Continuing to get clarification between our star card and our seven of swords in its upright, star card in its reversal, and our seven of swords in its upright. This is like these, like this, like the thing with it, like the magician relationships right now. And again, for our purposes, those are those relationships that came together between the solstice up until Mercury and Venus stationing direct behind Neptune. It's gotten real serious in those relationships. And it's funny because I keep on hearing the energy that is, it's getting serious, but they're looking at each other and they're saying, seriously? Like, seriously? Like the seriously point of understanding and recognizing or working through something to a certain extent, that they understand and identify. I keep on hearing, like, one of the articulations in terms of not being able to touch Saturn's lessons is the modality by which, again, you navigate a point of celebration and another person is in a state of rumination, right? Like, this is what we talk about with the Saturn, like a Saturnine lesson, because it's a space by which, again, the celebration that we feel is something that feels like it should be expanded upon. And that's often why those modalities or those moments when we're going through something that is energetically positive, right? Like when we're going through something that is energetically positive, but instead there's, like, I keep on hearing, like, but instead of the celebration, you experience another's rumination. It's something that effectively informs you, and it may even kind of add gravitas in terms of how you observe where another person is. But I keep on seeing that this is the energy that feels fortified, because it's the energy that identifies and recognizes that when we energetically center, that orbiting process is something that is energetically natural. We see it when we're children, right? This is often why when we go through Saturn returns from in like moving out of the space of a child space, we often experience those modalities or moments wherein we identify and recognize the shift of our own energetic priorities to those around us, which can sometimes create a little bit of that energetic frustration. So too do we often experience that when we move into healthy partnership. So a lot of these relationships are going through a maturation process. But what's interesting is it's related to situations or circumstances outside of union. Continuing to get clarification between our seven of swords in its upright and our eight of cups in its reversal. One card to clarify. There's that Knight of Wands in its reversal. So let's talk a little bit about that Knight of Wands in its reversal, because the Knight of Wands in its reversal speaks to us specifically upon it speaks to us specifically upon the space of communication. And the thing with the Knight of Wands that can often feel frustrating in relationality to working through frustration, and this is what we've been experiencing a lot right now with, and this is why I was kind of like, this is what I was kind of talking about in relationality to making sure that this is why we talk about, like, not popping off during retrograde, like during eclipse cycles, in terms of like how we like getting too deep in our energetic emotions during eclipse cycles, because it's not the fact that we can't do something with energetic validity in relationality to eclipse cycles. But the thing we observe when it comes to eclipse cycles, and especially with eclipse cycles like the one we just went through, is that eclipses are effectively amplifiers. They take whatever energy we're currently experiencing and it cranks it up to 11. And the thing that we see that potentially happens with this particular eclipse cycle is, you'll recall that there were a lot of planets that were in Aries. And the thing about Aries energy during an eclipse cycle is it can make us feel really, 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 really energetically sensitive upon things that are not necessarily that important, right? we were talking a lot about the space of making sure that one was doing introspection. One was doing introspection upon how we move in accordance with our own energetic volatility. Because I keep on hearing, when we are energetically honoring our feelings, is not doing anything we feel at any moment. That's how we energetically break things, right? That is dispassion. The ability to do anything you feel like it, and then try to tell another person that it's okay because you are honoring your feelings. Honoring your feelings isn't following your feelings. Your feelings change. Your feelings are fickle. Your feelings, they go all over the place. One day you could feel this way, another day you could feel that way. Our feelings are fickle. When we honor them, we work to ascertain the consistent force by which we navigate our feelings, right? Because it's the space, it is the difference when you're dispassionate, right? And this is what we're going to talk a lot about when we're going through Uranus and Gemini cycles. The difference between dispassion and compassion. And dispassion is being too changeable. Often those who are dispassionate are incredibly fickle, because one day you feel this way, the next day you feel that way. You can't, who knows where you feel? Like, yeah, you're all over the place because your feelings are all over the place. And often when someone is dispassionate, it is indicative of the fact that they're being fueled by their passions, right? Dispassionate is following your passions wherever they go, forgetting the fact that passions are too energetically changeable. Being compassionate is the difference and the solution to dispassion. Compassion is not just the fact of feeling upon something, but being able to do the work to articulate and recognize why one feels the way one feels, right? It's the heavy lifting that we often recognize or identify in a healthy, spiritual, emotional process. So what we effectively see that is potentially happening right now, and I just got to say this with and that's what I mean in terms of some of that resolution that may be occurring in terms of some of past experiences. I would not be surprised. I'm going to tell you right now, I would not be surprised if there's some energy right now that is potentially rectifying upon something that happened during another eclipse cycle. Because that modality of understanding or healing from being dispassionate is potentially often when we recognize spaces by which we were being dispassionate, we're able to articulate to another about our own energetic sorrow for doing so. It's the space by which we're able to understand and amplify what that means or what that is. So everything that we're effectively seeing here potentially has to do, and I would not be surprised, and again, basically this is the reason I'm bringing this up, is because I told you I do see some energy right now that there's some energy working. There is some energy here working on resolution, right? There is some energy that's potentially working on resolution, but there is some energy that's working through the completion of energetic cycles. And what is the effective difference that we're identifying between the energy that is closing out an energetic cycle versus the energy that is working to potentially rectify it? The observation as to whether something is coming towards them in a state of dispassion or a space of compassion, which is the difference between someone that says, that was unacceptable, right? That was unacceptable. That was not something that you energetically deserved. And I see that, the ability by which one is able to rectify versus someone saying, are you done having feelings yet? Have you gone appropriately numb enough for us to effectively continue? Has your longing for me been growing to such an extent that you're ready to put away those pesky standards in order to go back to something that we used to be energetically within? And so this is what I keep on seeing with a lot of, and I keep on hearing the moon relationships. This is why I keep on seeing there's either the energy that is working through the catharsis and receiving a true apology with no energetic standards connected, with no energetic strings connected to it, or the energy that is working on healing with the recognition of seeing somebody arriving back to them, which is what they anticipated, but not in the form that they aspired them to be in, which is the difference between someone that wants to rectify versus someone trying to mollify. This brings us to these relationships that are starting right now, and this is why there's so much trepidation there. 9 of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Empress in its reversal. Yeah, this is the 6 of Wands in its reversal. This energy has been hurt by energy that has not done their shadow work appropriately. Understanding that shadow work is the ability to navigate through our own energetic aversions. It's the ability to identify and recognize what are the limitations of the self that stand in the way in being able to do the things that we aspire to do, or pursue the things that we say that we are seeking. For instance, you can't say that you want a centered partnership in your life and then get upset when someone gives you attention. You can't say that someone giving you attention is needy, so long as it's a space by the fact that healthy relationship is mutual obsession, right? It's the space by which we understand the full breadth of what it is that we articulate, and also are able to articulate to another the way that we move in accordance to it. And this is why I see that this energy, this is why I said they're moon partnerships, because they're feeling each other out. They're doing auric work to understand the difference between what someone says versus the shape around them, in terms of what it seems like, whether they're creating a space or like as sanctuary, right? Because when we're building towards healthy manifestation, sometimes it's not about chasing the manifestation. It's building the manifestation as home, as sanctuary, because it's the space by which we create a life that welcomes the opportunity of the manifestation goal arriving towards us, right? So that's why I keep on seeing that this is the energy that's looking for those incongruities to determine if there's something that feels energetically safe to move closer towards. While continuing to get clarification between our Empress card in combination with our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal, we've got here the Ace of Wands in its reversal. So the Ace of Wands in its reversal, and I got to tell you, we've been seeing a lot of these Aces cards popping up recently. I like the Ace of Wands in its reversal. I'm never upset to see an ace card. Like don't feel because an ace card is a reverse means it's necessarily a bad thing. An ace card is good in any context by which one finds an ace. It has more to do with the shape of the work of the ace. So and this is why I keep on hearing this ace card with the star card in its reversal is the temperance relationships that are saying, I'm finally ready to tell you. I'm finally ready to tell you something that was energetically painful. I'm finally ready to go into detail upon that, because I keep on seeing like there's that space, like like it's funny too, because I keep on hearing they're saying effectively that in order to dig deep, we have to be able to recognize a relationship that is able to hold us effectively, is what I keep on seeing. And everything I keep on hearing in relationality to a lot of these relationships that we're effectively seeing, these temperance partnerships, this is the energy that went through some very, very heavy trauma. Like I just see this. They went through some stuff in past relationship. And I keep on seeing that this is the energy that the reason they're going through that solar plexus opening, as it were, is the energy that effectively articulates to one another and says, I'm finally ready to tell you, like the full breadth of how much something impacted me, the full context by which another person experienced something, because everything that we're effectively identifying or seeing there has to do in the space of the energy that said, I keep on hearing, it's not that they didn't want to talk to each other about it, but they didn't want the pain of that to be the center of the partnership that they were working to create with another. So this is the energy that's like, again, they're building into the space of going deeper with each other because they fortified that feeling of trust. Now, continuing to get clarification between our Nine of Pentacles in combination with our Knight of Wands in its reversal, we have here our three of Wands in its reversal. So this is what's so difficult right now for these energies that are moving deeper into divine union. Because this is the energy, I told you, there's some energy moving into divine union right now that are going through some very ironic situations. There's something about like some profound irony that's potentially happening in some of these relationships. Why are we seeing so much of that irony right now? Because you'll remember that we spoke about the fact that for some of these relationships, they've been in partnership before, but they've never centered a partnership like this one. And they're recognizing the changes to the energetic orbit outside of partnership as a result of that centering. And this is why we see that for a lot of those relationships, it feels it feels ironic because not only are they observing something that they understand, but they only remember experiencing it from the outside. They only remember seeing it from the outside. They were never within the context of the partnership where they saw it occurring. And that space of potentially seeing something that they remember when they were, again, not in the same maturation point. This is the energy that, like, is working through the frustration, but also, like, keep on hearing, like, you can't touch Saturn's lessons, because it's like if somebody's in their feelings at a point of celebration and you try to work through it, sometimes it creates more complication. It creates more energetic frustration. It makes something harder instead of easier to heal. So that's why they're saying, like, this is why we call them Saturn's lessons, because Saturn lessons are the spaces by which we look at something and say, give it a little time. Give it a little time. Continuing to get clarification between our Six of Wands and our Ace of Wands in its reversal. We've got here the Two of Pentacles in its upright. So what we're effectively seeing with that Two of Pentacles in its upright, and I like this is speaking towards those moon partnerships that are coming together right now. You know, what we're effectively identifying here is, I feel like there's something like I keep on hearing, like, the moon partnerships that are effectively happening right now is working through, like, it's working through the segmentation point between dispassion and compassion. It's working through the space. It's like it's working through the space of feeling the energetic vibration by which, I keep wondering, like, feeling the energetic vibration by which we understand and recognize our own emotionality. And I keep on hearing, like, this is the work that we do in terms of honoring our feelings. And again, it's the space by which we understand that honoring our feelings isn't just doing anything we feel energetically inclined to do at every moment, right? That's not honoring feelings. Those, and often it's kind of frustrating because sometimes individuals who are doing that will say, oh, well, I was like, you can't fault me. I was just honoring my feelings. And this is why you can fault someone when they say, oh, I did something, like, this is why you can fault someone when they say to you, oh, I just did something spontaneous and confusing, but I was just honoring my feelings, because that's literally the sound that trauma makes as it's energetically occurring, right? Trauma, there is not energy that tries to traumatize one another, right? It's not like someone wakes up and goes, I wonder who I can traumatize today. This is why we often end up hurting each other when we're being dispassionate, because honoring feelings is not just being energetically reactive to the feelings, because when you're being energetic reactive to the feelings, you're just serving the feelings. But rather, when you are able to communicate, right? When you're able to communicate upon the reason that one feels the way one does, and this is usually a good way to fortify upon whether we're being dispassionate or compassionate. The best way to fortify as to whether an emotional feeling is something that is an inside or outside problem is whether there is another thing, if there's something another person can reasonably do that would allow that emotionality to be gone, right? Like, that is how we help one another. Like that this is what we talk about with shadow work, right? Like, this is literally what we talk about with shadow work. We fortify our emotions. We introspect upon them to say, is this an inside problem? Or is this an outside problem? Is this something I'm feeling that I need to work through and resolve within the self? Or is this something that another person can do something that is reasonable by which it would allow one to be able to do something more energetically effectively? So something that we're seeing and observing there, like, that's what I meant. It's not the fact that I don't see some energy coming into restoration in these modalities, and it's also the fact that I see that there is some energy that is coming to some fundamental closures of unhealthy energetic cycles. This is that Libra energy in terms of weighing that to determine if what is happening is effectively dispassionate or compassionate, right? And I keep on hearing the emotions that are reasonable. The emotions that exist within the realms of reason are compassionate. The emotions that only serve the egoic space are dispassionate. So there's something really important that we see as it relates to a lot of energy and separation, reaching those points of energetic catharsis. This brings us to the energy. This brings us to the energy that is moving deeper into divine. And again, and what's hard for some of these new relationships is that these are the relationships that are trying to ascertain if they are finding one another in the, they're trying to ascertain if they're finding each other, which one they're finding themselves in, right? Like the ability, like if they're looking towards someone that, like I keep on hearing, actually has their heart invested in what they say that they desire, or if they're just trying to say something, if they're just saying something to get something, right? Like that's what I keep on seeing that's happening there. And that's because I keep on seeing that those are the energies that were hurt, I told you, by energy in the past that had not done their shadow work effectively. This brings us to the Ace of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Three of Wands in its reversal. Ooh, we like ourselves a Tower in its reversal. That's nice. This is a lot of, I told you, these are the Temperance energies saying, I'm finally ready to tell you, because I keep on hearing the energy, the thing with energy, like the thing with trauma is when we bring past trauma into a relationship, it's important to recognize the energetic readiness point. Because I keep on seeing the energy that says, I didn't want your perception of me to be shaped by something that occurred to me, right? Like I almost see the energy that said, I'm ready to show you some kind of pain that I experienced because I don't think that you will see that as the sum of who I am. So that's why I keep on seeing that there's something about the energy, those temperance relationships that are understanding and working through the energetic ideal identification of the fact that there's often a season by which we bring that explanation of trauma to one another, right? The space by which we're able to really signify and articulate upon how much something means or what we're effectively identifying or working towards. So something about that, like it feels like the energy, I told you, it's the solar plexus opening, because they're finally able, I keep on hearing they're finally able to articulate upon the full breadth of something that they have been, like I keep on hearing like longing to say to one another, but not knowing the right time to speak upon it. While for the energy that is deep within divine union, this is what I told you, like they're going through a lot of irony right now, because the effective irony that they're experiencing is the observation of working through something, coming into energetic union, identifying and recognizing something, and then also understanding that there's not something they can do about it because they remember a time that they themselves felt that way, right? It's literally the energy that is utilizing the self as past reference to navigate a present experience. And that's what I keep on seeing. This is why it feels like a maturation process, because it is the understanding, like it feels like they themselves are having a moment of almost seeing themselves outside of partnership because they remember what it felt like. Final card for today's spread, between our Two of Pentacles in combination with our Tower card in its reversal. We've got here the Hermit card in its reversal, which again, it makes a lot of sense given the fact that we see that kind of energy that we're identifying here. Because what we're effectively identifying with the Hermit card in the reversal has to do with, it has to do, and I feel like this is the thing with Sagittarius energy. And here's the thing about it. Sagittarius energy is sometimes misarticulated as being spontaneous. Like the difference between shocking and spontaneous is dependent upon the delight by which one hopes to bring or bear with it, right? Our delight should be energetically spontaneous, right? It's the space by which we like, and this is often what Sages work through, right? Like the space by which we understand that we can offer. I keep on hearing like, and this is why those with Sag placements like work to heal on this. Spontaneity, when it brings to delight, is often why you see the fact that Sag energy is often in the space of bringing forth lots of wonderful surprises, right? Because it is the joy of seeing the delight that occurs in the space by which you do something, and it just creates that sense of delight in another person. But when I keep on hearing, but when we're energetically reactive, it's not something that is delightful. It can often feel more like it's something that is energetically shocking. So, and this is what we talk about in the space of identifying that when we speak towards honoring feelings, we honor feelings when our feelings bring to delight into the spaces by which we honor them, right? They bring the light, they bring delight, they bring the light to the spaces that we honor them. So the space that we honor emotions is the space that we can talk about, right? The clarity upon why we have them. The space by which we're able to understand and recognize the full breadth of why we feel the way we do. Often, far too often, we have this terrible tendency of others that try to do anything that they want, and we all do this. We've all done this at some point. You do whatever you want, and then you say, well, I was just honoring the feelings. But the feelings are absurd. The feelings don't have any logic. We hold the feelings in accordance to ourselves. You can have feelings from eating a bad sandwich. You know what I mean? Like your feelings are shifty, adaptable, malleable things that change from moment to moment. And this is often why we don't realize who we're traumatizing in the space of honoring feelings, like in the space that we're just changing and saying, I'm honoring my feelings every way. You're not honoring feelings if you're letting the feelings just run anywhere they want. That's not honoring feelings by letting them run all over the place and then chasing after them and saying, I'm honoring them. Like that's not being honored that's not honoring your feelings. That's being led by them. And that makes you, and again, while you're running around trying to chase after your feelings and shouting in the wind, I'm honoring them. Others are getting wounded by them, right? Others are getting wounded by them. So I feel like that's what's beautiful about this, because it's understanding that often, and the best way to kind of recognize, the best way to honor a feeling is to sit with it. And if you've cringed by me saying sit with it, you go, no, there you go, right? This is what we talk about with shadow work. Have you sat with it for a minute? Have you sat with that feeling instead of acting upon it? Can you sit down with it? Can you sit down and just sit with the feeling for a few minutes? And that's often what we have to do, because that is what we talk about with shadow work. It's literally just the moment, instead of being led by and this is what we talk about the difference between disassociation and non-attachment. Non-attachment does not mean that you try to disconnect yourself from your emotional center. It's the ability to be able to sit with it and not be reactive to it, to be able to contemplate upon it. So I feel like that's a little bit of that work today, right? It's working through the rockiness of feelings that often come up during retrograde periods, but not being reactive to those feelings, but instead having the ability. And that doesn't mean that you don't react to them, right? That doesn't mean that you operate in a state of stagnation, but it's the ability to be able to sit with them a moment, to understand and identify the step by which you take in order to communicate that that emotion most effectively. Bottom of the deck on this reading. Boom! I love to see our Page of Swords here in its reversal, because you'll recall that we saw the Page of Swords the other day. We saw the Page of Swords the other day in our spread, and it not only was it in our spread, but you'll recall that the space that it was in our spread was effectively very close to the pinnacle of what we were effectively seeing in the spread. You may have heard me, because I was actually pulling up yesterday's spread to see where I could find the proximity of this card, because I know we saw it this week in the pinnacle. But the thing that we understand and identify has to do, right? It often has to do with the space of understanding our own tendencies, right? It's understanding our own energetic hurdles. And it's not to say, like, listen, and I need to point this out. There's a misconception that healing is getting rid of all of your triggers. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you have a standard, that trigger is necessary to hold the standard. If there's an energetic standard, you should be upset if it's not being held. If you've got an energetic standard, it is perfectly fine to have a trigger. It's much like a good trigger. It's all about where the trigger rests. Okay. And what's problem, well, and this is why we often have to heal triggers from our traumas, because the problem with triggers from traumas is that we put triggers in weird places. Like that's a problem with trauma. Puts trigger in some kind of wacky place that nobody would potentially expect it. And then something weird happens that nobody gets. And suddenly you're all like, you're blah! You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's when our triggers, like our trigger, like this is why we heal from trauma. Because when we're not healing from trauma, our triggers are in weird places. And then everybody else has to deal with those triggers because they don't know where they live. It's not wrong to have triggers. It's just making sure that you know where they are and making sure that they're protecting the right things. That is where we find all of the energy prior to beginning today. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my site. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading in order to receive that reading. Also, please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I would encourage you to do it there. A couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent class on the star card. Our next tarot class will be held on Wednesday, October 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the moon card. If you would like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head on over to my stack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my stack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. You will also, as a paid monthly subscriber, have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library Class Archive. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I'll be doing my best to give you an update on everything we've studied prior to beginning the next class. But if you wanted to catch up, this is the perfect time to join. You'll be able to have a whole month to take any classes that you want to take. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions you may have in relation to anything we've learned and studied thus far. And if you become a founding member to my stack, not only will you receive a discount on the whole year's worth of classes, but you will also receive full access to the entirety of the Tarot Church Library Class Archive. That is access to over 19 hours worth of material in an ever-expanding library. You'll also have access to a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, if you choose to receive one, where I will meet with you personally to assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your impact going towards your tarot goals moving forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or biweekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or biweekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings, which you can purchase per dream or as a series. If you purchase the series, I would encourage you to start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or biweekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and receiving these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.